Kids, it's John, and it's time for our weekly big idea lesson. So, I have a question for you. Do you guys have a hard time remembering things your parents tell you to do? Anyone? Just me? Sometimes when I'm leaving in the morning and I have a lot of stuff to do, I have a list of things I know I need to do. I know I need to feed the dog. I know I need to brush my teeth. I know I need to put deodorant on. I know that I need to put clothes on. Those are all important things, right? But there's also other things. I need to clean the dishes. I need to do laundry because I don't want to wear stinky clothes all week. What are some things that you are supposed to remember throughout the week that your parents ask you to do? So I wrote a few things here. This one is clean your room. Okay. So obviously your parents tell you every week you need to clean your room. You need to take out the trash. Maybe that's something that they want you to do. If you don't take out the trash, your house starts to smell like the trash, and then flies come in, and then other animals and critters come in and do. Maybe you need to feed your animals, right? I mean, if my dog didn't get fed, he would come and stare at me and be like, "What are you doing?" If you didn't get fed, you would be staring at your parents saying, "Feed me," wouldn't you? Be nice to your siblings, be nice to your parents, be nice to each other. That's something you're supposed to do. What are some other things that your parents tell you to do every week that they tell you to remember? Some of those things, maybe they're easier for you to remember. Maybe there's some things that are harder for you to remember. For me, I always forget something like I'll get a water bottle out of the refrigerator and I'll put it on the table and I'll leave it there for the whole day. I just forget it. Forget that it's there. It's important that we remember the things our parents tell us to do because it's important to listen to them. But there's also things that we need to remember that people tell us about and tell us to do because it's just good for us. Jesus said some really important things. See, I left my Bible over here. He says some really important things in the scripture. And in Matthew chapter 7, here's what he says. And today's teaching is Jesus said, "Remember what I say." So it's interesting that I forgot to say that at the beginning of this lesson. Jesus said, "Remember what I say." Here's what I mean. In Matthew 7:24 through 27, Jesus says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had a foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." What is Jesus talking about? So in this passage, Jesus is saying that if you listen to these words of mine, so in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, he said all kinds of important things like love your enemies, don't hate other people, don't judge other people, make sure that you store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, teaching us how to pray. And then Jesus says, if you not just hear these words of mine, but if you put them into practice, that means if you actually hear and do what I say. So it's one thing for you to hear your parents say, "Clean your room," but it's important that you do that. It's one thing to hear your parents say, "Take out the trash," but it's really the more important thing is that you do it. Okay. And Jesus says, if we listen to his words and obey them, we are building our house on the rock. But if we hear his words and we don't do what he says, it's like it's like being living on a house built on the sand. So I don't know if you guys have ever played Jenga. Has anyone ever played Jenga? This is a game where you put these blocks, you build a really tall thing of blocks, and you remove these pieces one at a time without them falling. Okay, so I just moved that one, and then I moved that one, and we would keep. Ooh, that kind of got close there, and so we would keep going until this fell. Now, when I was putting this together, I didn't have a hard time doing it because I did it on this stool. It's a really sturdy stool. Now, what if you were trying to build these Jenga pieces and I was doing this? That would be crazy. You can't build an awesome Jenga house when the stool is moving around and it's not sturdy, right? That's kind of what Jesus is saying. He's saying when we only listen and hear his words, but we don't practice them, it's like trying to build a Jenga house on this stool while it's wobbling. It doesn't work. It falls apart. But when we listen to the words of Jesus and actually do them, it's like our house is built on the rock. And so, kids, what I want to encourage you to do is first off, listen when people are teaching you about the Bible, listen to your parents. And Jesus is saying, don't just remember the things I say, do what I say, remember what I say, because it's like having your house built on the rock. I hope that this makes sense. I hope that you learned something, and I will see you guys next week.